We're excited to be back.
Oh, we're so excited. This is always fun. I look forward to it all week.
Me too.
How are you doing?
Therapy was great yesterday, so I'm doing
Woo!
great. You?
It's been a great week. A lot to cover this week. I can't wait to jump into it. So,
Let's do it.
welcome to JA Millionaire Podcast. We're Jasmine and Angelica, two ambitious Latina women sharing our journey from humble beginnings to millionaire success. Join us as we talk about overcoming challenges, building a winning mindset, and inspiring other women from underprivileged backgrounds to pursue their dreams. So, we're going to start it off. We have two amazing topics today. We're going to be talking about our therapy journey and things that we have learned and that have just improved the quality of our lives. And we're also going to be talking about finances, things that we wish we would have learned younger and sooner. And hopefully, we can spark some motivation and inspiration for you guys. So, I'm going to kick it off to Angelica so we can get the therapy biggest takeaways started.
Sure. So I've done therapy off and on, but I really took it serious after marriage and, more clarity. The good thing is you're able to choose whoever you want as a therapist, so you could always interview and see if the vibes are right for yourself, just in case anybody's considering taking therapy or going into therapy. I chose a male, and he's Jewish, so that helps me with my life because I'm Jewish or I'm learning the Judaism ways, and so it helps me have a different outlook, not only spiritually but mentally. It helps me with marriage, but seeing it from a male's point of view. So that's very helpful. It's been a year, and I just recently went from doing 2 times a week to once a week about a month ago. So that, or maybe 2 months ago, it's been a lot of progress for me. I think growing up the way that we have grown up, it may be in our culture a little taboo to talk about our emotions or mental health or seeing a therapist as a sign of weakness and things like that. So being able to open my mind to these new things as new opportunities has really helped me establish firm boundaries, not only for me, but within my immediate circle, whether it be family, friends. I mean, it's helped me make better, stable decisions that are more consistent and actually really help me in my life and in my marriage. So I don't think it's embarrassing to talk about it. I actually think it just shows a sign of strength. And therapy not only sharpens your mind, it sharpens everything else around you, and you're able to make more decisions. And as we said before, my husband has said, if you can't control your emotions, you can't control your money. And to me, I feel like therapy not only sharpens the mind, it sharpens your financial life, and you're able to figure both of them out at the same time, which makes you even stronger. What do you think about that?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think when we first started this, at first sight, you're like, what does therapy have to do with finances? But as we talk through this, you're going to realize there's actually a big tie between um, where your mindset is at and where your money's at. You can almost correlate them. Like, if this one's not right, this one's not going to be right either. There's a direct relationship between the two. We like to it's usually commonly addressed as like the poverty mindset versus the abundance mindset. But so what if I missed this, I'm sorry, but what would you say were your biggest takeaways that you've taken away or learned from therapy that you're like, this has totally changed my life?
I would say there's two. Because I grew up we grew up similar, right? So every
Mhm.
time there was a problem, it was like everything else was a problem. Like it was just always easier to be negative growing up. And so I remember if one thing did get out of hand, everything else, the day, the week was ruined. Everything, marriage, friends, nothing was going to work out. Like I was so convinced that if I was upset, everything doesn't, like I was upset at everything, even school, to that nature. But my biggest take back of what I learned is identifying what the issue was and separating it from life threatening events, because I grew up where either someone was either going to prison or we got raided by the feds, or someone shot someone, or we were held at gunpoint for being robbed. So like every problem I had in my life, I identified it with those problems. So I would be like, everything was chaos. So every time I did have an issue, no matter what it was, what level it was, if I broke a pencil and didn't have a pencil, oh, I would cry and just leave. The world was over because I got so used to just having identifying all of my issues as life-threatening issues, even when they weren't. So I remember one day I was crying and I was so fed up, and I think it was just one of my last meltdowns. And my therapist was like, Angelica, and I was like, yeah. He's like, not all issues are life-threatening. And I was like, what? I didn't understand it. I really didn't. I just learned this year. I just told you maybe a month or two ago that I just learned this because it barely made sense to me. I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't make sense that I am identifying this as a life-threatening issue when I could just buy a new thing. Or like I remember I would hit a wheel on my car and it would be the end of the world for me. I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, my wheel's messed up." And and then my husband came in the picture and he was like, "Well, just buy a new one. It's 175. Like so what?" So it took me a while to understand that, hey, not all issues were life threatening. So that was the biggest take back. And the other take back was it is okay to have boundaries. It is okay to say, hey, this hurts me and I don't roll with it. And it is okay to let those people that don't respect your boundaries fall where they need to fall in life. Like whether it be not with us or whatever. We want the best for them, but it's just like you say all the time, you can eat, but you're not gonna eat at my table. Like, you know, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. So I was going to comment on the first one and the second one. So on the first one, I would say like, so would you say that before therapy, your emotions were behind the wheel versus now you're like, I'm behind the wheel and I understand emotions are happening. Now I can actually separate myself and watch them versus them completely take me over, completely like that was me too, because we were not trained to separate from our emotions. If we felt something, we just let it take the wheel and we're like, oh my God, this is where we're going now. It was like a freaking chimpanzee in the driver's seat, you know? But now it's like I can get upset, I can get emotional and realize it's just I'm watching it and I'm watching it, and then I'm separated and going, what is it telling me? Because emotions do tell us something. So we're like, and you've been doing this recently too, and it's so awesome to watch, is like, I need to step back and I need to watch this. What is it telling me? It's telling me something. Something's upsetting me, but why? So that's such a beautiful place to be, is like, okay, now I'm using the emotions for productive outcomes versus chimpanzee take the wheel, you know?
Yeah. And it's hard because in our culture we can be a lot more passionate than other people. And that's a great thing, but it's
Mhm.
also one of our worst qualities. And with my therapist, he has me doing this thing called EMDR, which is a thing where you process your emotions a lot easier. Yesterday, I had an incident that occurred, and it just happened to be my lucky day. I was headed into therapy. So instead of letting the anxiety just eat me up about it, I tapped through on my legs like this and closed my eyes. And he said, "Where is your anxiety coming from?" And we kind of broke it down like onion, just peeling and peeling and peeling. And after the call, I had no anxiety because I identified what I was hurting from. And I was able to say, okay, I can move this pain a different way because it's actually not me. It's what the other person was doing that I was making my issue when it isn't my issue to make those decisions for people. If you want to ruin your life, don't ruin mine, but carry
And
on,
then
like,
and then that's going into the conversation of boundaries. And like I think a lot of people don't understand what boundaries are. Boundaries are not intended to punish somebody. Boundaries are intended to protect you. So once you understand that and you can actually communicate that, most people don't find them too offensive. The ones that do just really don't understand boundaries at all. But it's all about, what do you feel comfortable with? What are you working on? And the best way I describe it is it's a fence. This is my lawn, this is my house, and this is my fence. Everything that's happening on your side of the fence, I may like it, not like it, but regardless, I respect it. That's your side of the fence. But this is my side of the fence. And on this side of the fence, we keep our lawn mowed, manicured,
fertilized.
fertilize, we keep the house clean. Like, this is how I run my house. And I'm sorry, if you're going to come into my house, these are my rules and my expectations. So once I kind of learned that, is like, Ooh, boundaries are for me, not for you. It's to keep me
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah, and I think you find yourself having less anxiety when you learn that power and you learn that skill. You're actually a lot more able to manage your money and your life and your decisions a lot more efficiently because you got that power now. And being married to my husband, who's never been through half of the things we talk about or go through, he's also been a very strong character in my development because he's lived such a normal life. He didn't have a lot of adversity, but he's able to say, "Hey, Angelica, you're messing up because this isn't normal. It's not normal. Why are you accepting that?" And so that helps me be a better, strong individual when it comes to my boundaries because I'm like, you're right. I shouldn't be accepting this just because they're my family and they haven't learned what success or boundaries are. I should see it as, what the hell are you doing with your life? This is a mess and I should not accept it. If you want to go and cheat and steal and commit crimes, I don't respectfully, it's not that I'm too good. I just don't want to be near it because you're putting my decisions and my life and my family at risk to be a part of your destruction, and that sucks because a lot of people in a manipulative way will say, "Oh, you don't love me," or, "Oh, they'll block you." And I'm like, I don't know what to do because I feel like you're gaslighting me into thinking that you do care for me, but you're only destructing your life and you want to take my collateral with it. And I just feel like I've overcame too much to be allowing that in my inner
Yep.
life.
Yep. It's just like that fence. Like, I'm gonna love you from over here. I love you from over here, but we're not letting that into my house. This is my house. I've worked too hard to build everything. I had to fix everything because if originally this house was given to me in the wrong build, and I had to dismantle the whole thing and rebuild the whole thing. So I'm sorry. You you are more than welcome to live your life however you want on the other side of that fence. And
And
like
we
I said,
still love them.
yeah, I still love
Right,
you. Yeah. And you deserve love and respect, but on the other side of that fence. Sorry.
right.
You know?
And if that yeah, and if that tornado, metaphorically speaking, comes into our homes, yours is going to be the first one to fall, and mine will have a little bit of damage, but not as much. So, playing the long game is the best thing you can do, no matter how much you love these people and how much you have grown close and grown up and lived together. Sometimes you just have to let the tornado take its course and be out of the wind, you know?
Yes. Would you say like for our audience, is there any resource or anything that you would recommend? Um, like a
Sure.
like a
Like
book
something that
or
I've learned.
yeah.
Yes. So, well, first, I would start with saying deleting social media. I deleted it in 2017. My Instagram never went back, and then deleted Facebook in 2021, never went back. And one, I feel that that is one of the best things you can do to clear up your mind so you can make better, efficient decisions without feeling that you're being missed out on or whatever. But yeah, that's step one. Two is reading. You and I love to read. I have a good book that not only helps you in the mind, but it also helps you with your finances. And it's called The Rules of Wealth, which is a short read, but it's so good you won't put it down. And it's by Richard Templer. It's really good. It tells you how to manage your money. I mean, not to be like a show off and go get, a lime green Mercedes or lime green Jaguar. Like, it just tells you how to respect money because if you don't respect money, you can't really grow because you don't respect it. You have to have some kind of relationship with money to where you're fulfilled and you find that in your home and you respect it because if not, it's like a relationship, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
What do you think
absolutely.
to add on to it?
Absolutely. Before we go into the conversation of money, I want to share the my biggest takeaways that I came
Yes,
from therapy. Uh, I'm like, if we
because
keep
you've
going down
been
this might end up
longer.
being a two-part series.
I know, but you've been
There's
in
so
therapy
much.
longer, right?
Yeah. I went to therapy for a few years, and gosh, just listening to your talk, because I think you're like maybe a year or two behind me in therapy. I had already forgotten all of the things that I had to do in order, like, because when you're starting from step one, you forget how, like, there was a lot of things I had to remove from my life because I didn't have the strength and the tools yet. So the social media, I even stepped away from alcohol. Like I went sober for 6 months. There were so many things because I didn't have the control yet. I didn't have the self-discipline yet. So the best way for me to handle it was just to delete everything, remove everybody. I mean, I like blocked people, took away social media. Like I did all of that and was like, I need to be here and I'm in a crisis mode. So I need to be fully present into fixing all of this. But I will say the biggest takeaways I've taken from therapy is number one, how to reprogram self-talk. Reprogramming self-talk. When I first, growing up, I used to always say the most mean things to myself. You're stupid, you're fat, you're ugly. You're like, where does this come from? Like I was so hard on my body. I was so hard on if I made the slightest mistake, I would just have these meltdowns. Like I have to be perfect. Where did that come from? And a lot of us deal with that. And all this negative self-talk. You could not find a bully meaner than the one that was in my own head. I was so abusive, mentally abusive to myself. I later on found out that that's actually like a natural survival mechanism. It's our way of saying, hey, that was a mistake, and you may be socially outcast if you keep going down that way. It's a survival mechanism, but it doesn't really help us in today's times. So I learned through, and I'm going to put up an image of the book. It's called Self-Compassion by Kristin Neff, and it was so pivotal, instrumental at helping me figure out how to reprogram self-talk. Um, I, I don't have time to go into it, but I would definitely recommend reading that book because it literally breaks down how you talk to yourself and how to reprogram it. And now in my head, I am the biggest cheerleader you will ever meet. I am so kind. I am so patient. I am so graceful with myself. Even when I do mess up, I talk to myself as if I were like my own mother. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, we're gonna get you did you did a good job. You're gonna do it again. We're gonna try it again. Good job. Get out there. I'm the biggest cheerleader now for myself. The second one is self-worth. I learned that my self-worth doesn't come from money, achievements, or actions for others. Before, I used to feel like my self-worth only came if I had this career, this title, this money, if I had made these accomplishments or did things for other people. I could not wrap my head around the fact that I could possibly have self-worth just for existing. I from a little child, I had to earn my keep like from day one. So I always felt like in order to have value, I had to be giving something or doing something, which ended up being very destructive in relationships because I could not fathom that I was valuable outside of that, like unless I was doing something for you.
Oh,
And
wow.
then number three was coping skills. I had never learned how to manage emotions. So just like you were saying earlier, having the monkey in the driver's seat is, whatever emotion, I just let myself go. I'd surrender to that emotion. I'm like, oh, we're sad
Yeah.
now. We're going to be sad. I'm happy. We're going to be happy. It was such a roller coaster because it was like up, down,
High
up, down,
lows.
so extreme because I didn't know how to handle or cope. And coping skills was that one was really difficult to learn how to navigate because you have so much momentum of like having a reflex when you have a bad emotion. And, full transparency for me, I did not know how to handle bad emotions. The way I coped was through alcohol, um, physical intimacy, seeking attraction from other people. Like I needed somebody to desire me, want me, entertain me, flirt with me, sleep with me, alcohol, like those were how I could feel better because I didn't know any other way. Now I have learned that you're not supposed to distract from the bad emotions. And no, this sounds tough and it is hard. It is hard. You actually have to sit there and feel it. The faster you can sit there and feel it and process it, the faster you can get over it and you can get to happy. And I had to learn how to allow myself to be sad, feel the emotion, process it, not run to alcohol. Oh, I remember there was one time I was practicing it and it was after a breakup. And all I wanted to do was go out and drink and be destructive. And instead, I sat on the floor for 2 hours crying, just trying to, it was almost like two people in the room. One of me was wanting to run, and the other me was holding me down, going, "You can get through this. You can get through this." And I was just sitting there like for 2 hours, just crying and crying and crying. I had never allowed myself to sit in emotions. But because of that, I didn't do anything destructive that night. I didn't go out and drink. I didn't go out and sleep with somebody else. I didn't do anything. I just processed it. And because of that, it's not like I felt better the next day, but I was able to process it much faster, learn from it, and not pull myself back. So that one has to be one of like the biggest things, the biggest takeaways I have ever taken from therapy that really changed my life.
Wow,
Any of
that
that
is
stand out to you?
beautiful. No, I mean, yeah, you're beautiful inside out. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. Like, I just heard that for the first time, and you're so right. The way you handled it with, was this before or after the book that you read?
Everything that I practiced that I listed was all after the book, but I was
Okay.
reading the book in conjunction with therapy. That book was recommended by my therapist. So I would read it, I would meet with him, read it, meet with him. And so a lot of these things that I learned here, honestly, it's a mix. So some of it is from the book and some of it was from therapy. But those were my biggest takeaways during my healing journey that I use
Wow.
now. Like, there's nothing I can't handle. There's nothing. Like, you can throw everything at me, and doesn't mean that I won't have a hard day. It doesn't mean I won't have a breakdown, but I am able to handle it so much better rather than being destructive.
Wow. That is such a beautiful thing, like a healing journey. I feel like I'm just now getting to that part also where I am comfortable with allowing myself to process certain things. For example, I told you, I had an incident with a family member and I established some boundaries and a few months passed and they kind of try to come back into my life and, try to send me like a cute song or something, which I appreciated. But because that person isn't mentally, I don't want to sound like I'm beating this person up because that's the last thing I want to do, but I just said, hey, like, we can't go 0 to 100. Like, we've got to gently rebuild where we left off at. We can't, you can't just cuss someone out and be like, oh, by the way, how was today? Like, it doesn't, I'm learning how to be healthy and having healthy boundaries in relationships. So I told the person I said, hey, I appreciated that you thought of me and sent me this beautiful message, but we're not there. Like, we can't just go back to where we were. And I said, hey, it's a privilege to be in my life and it's a privilege to talk to me. And, I'm not accessible like maybe everyone that you've chosen to be accessible for or to. And I just said, and I don't mean to hurt your feelings. I just want you to know that you really hurt me, and I'm still processing that. And I'm processing it in a different way that most individuals probably can't or haven't been like in our family. And I got blocked. So before I could send the message for someone being petty in response to saying, hey, I was hurt, they said, well, have a blessed life or you'll never hear from me again. And I responded and I was just like, these are just my boundaries. I don't want to hurt you. But if you can't accept where I am or meet me there, I said that just tells me everything I need to know with our relationship. And so it just sucks that I went through that. But at the same time, it's kind of like, hey, like, I still love you, but this hurts me. And I was being honest and I was being vulnerable. I wasn't trying to attack the person, and I never want to come off that way. But I think it is important to establish those things because if you don't have self respect, neither will those people will for you. That you just give them to permission to enter in and out of your life whenever you want, and you've got a shield from that when you're growing.
Yep, absolutely. Empathy without boundaries is just giving somebody permission to hurt you and and then you end up abandoning yourself, and you end up feeling resentful because you're like, I let you in and cause all this destruction in this beautiful house that I built. You just can't. You can't. And the sad thing
Right.
is, as you go further down your healing journey, you realize that not many people are equipped to think like this and process like this. So a lot of, like, even though you didn't have intentions to hurt them, it was all to try to protect you and your home. They are they can't see past their nose. So it's going to be like, you attacked me, you rejected me, there's something wrong with me. And that's the sad part, that's for
Right.
them to have to deal with, you know.
But it reminded me of your story. I was able to allow myself, even though it hurt, to feel like I processed it like you did in a way. And that's a beautiful story because I feel that I am at that place now where I am allowing myself to have certain emotions. But, I think that working out and eating clean, staying, it keeps you mentally strong. So you're able to respond to these different issues in a different manner. Like you're like, I had these choices, I had the ability to do it, but I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to allow myself to destroy this house that I worked so hard on building. No one understands the tears, the sweat, the amount of time I had to put into this house. So I'm going to stay right here and I'm going to pick up every piece that broke and repair it and not take it out on the other person and not go out and have a party in your yard and worry about if they leave, you got to clean all the mess up,
Yeah.
metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
So you did,
And,
yeah.
and the funny thing about emotions is, for so long I had suppressed them. I learned to cope with very unhealthy ways. So now that I do allow myself to feel them, I feel them without allowing them to control me. It's a weird process now, but now it's so funny if people from my past, or people that knew me before, they're like, God, you're so sensitive now, like you cry over anything. And I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, because you know what, emotions are beautiful. I don't know why we turn them off, well, I do know why, but it's just so sad that we were taught to turn them off. Because now when I am grateful, I cry. When I'm happy, I show that I'm happy. When I'm sad, I cry. And the crying doesn't last long. It's quick now. It is, whew, we got it out, and then I move on. And it's so beautiful to be able to feel the whole spectrum of emotions and know that I'm just having a little moment, either of appreciation or sadness or whatever, of being human, and not letting it completely take me over and take control of my life. It's
Yeah, I agree.
so
You've
peaceful.
done so well. And you've actually inspired me and motivated me to, hey, wake up. I'm not a 6-year-old little girl anymore that I can just throw these tantrums on. Like, I need to wake up because I have to be someone every day.
Yeah.
And this, in our relationship, we hold each other accountable for a lot of things. And I feel that emotions also play a big factor into controlling your money, which is what we wanted to get into.
Yeah.
What do you think, or would you want to
Yeah.
start with that?
Yeah, let's get into it. For money, um, this is definitely this topic I wanted to cover, because I wish what I'm about to share, I wish I would have learned younger and sooner. At least at the age of 16, I wish I would have known some of these principles, because if I did, I'd be a millionaire by now. So if you are 16 years old and listening to this, which you shouldn't be because this is for 18 and up, if you are under the age, listen up, because good God, I wish I would have known some of these principles. These are going to be a little bit more high level, so you still need to be able to deep dive. So once you've corrected your mindset, and we went from the poverty mindset to the abundance mindset, and we realized that life isn't like this, it's like this, and everything is possible, then you're coming in with the right mindset. So start with your mindset, and then these are some of the principles that I wish I would have learned younger. Number one, pay yourself first, a minimum of 10%. My first job, I worked at Taco Bell, and I think, I don't know, I was making like 100 or something dollars every 2 weeks or two, whatever, because I was working part-time after school. I wish I had learned at 16 to calculate 10% and to put that away into a savings account. I did not learn that habit till probably my mid to late 20s. And and that one came from reading a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. That one taught me um, about the importance of always paying yourself first. To remember that you come first, not your bills, not all of that. I know this is going to sound so foreign, especially if you've never done it. You're like, but wait a minute, like I may not have enough to go paycheck to pay. Like I'm already going paycheck to paycheck. But believe it or not, once you get used to doing that, you've learned to live within those, particular means, or you're going to figure out how to work more hours. But the thing is, you get into the habit of always paying yourself 10%. I started off at 10%, and I think that when I first started, that was $13 out of my check. And that was like
Wow.
already in my 20s. And that $13 was hard. I was living in a Section 8 apartment. I was working for like, I think $9 or $10 an hour, and I was a college graduate. So that I was barely learning these principles now at that time. So that eventually turned into like, putting the 10% away. I was able to take myself to Jamaica for 7 days for my 30th birthday from saving the little $13 here, the $20 there, and it all added up. And I was able to, make a big dream happen for my 30th birthday. Now I wish I would have
Wow.
started doing that in my, early teens. And what I would have done with that is I would have put that into a high yield savings account, which is a savings account that has a higher interest rate for returns. Number two, I wish I would have learned to invest in the stock market at 18, at least 18, because anything younger would have required my parents. And I don't want to, put any responsibility on my parents. They did the best that they could. Um, but at least me, I wish I would have learned because, we knew to open a bank account at 18. I wish I would have known to open a brokerage account at 18 and start investing at least the money I probably started saving at 16. Now I would have had some money to put into the stock market at 18. So in 2020, I lost my job. And this is the moment where I was kind of put like my back was up against a wall. I didn't get any help, unemployment. I didn't get any help from the government, nothing. The state that I was in was not helping me at all. And I was quickly losing all of my money. I was facing eviction, and I realized, and this is so sad, but not all of us are as lucky to have like the knight in shining armor come in and rescue you. And when I realized that that knight in shining armor was not about to save me, I told myself, I am going to learn how to invest like a successful man. I am going to sit down and educate myself. And it was painful because I was not strong in math, I was not strong in numbers. This world was so intimidating. And so I sat down and I read a book called Money Master the Game from Tony Robbins. And this book is the equivalent of a textbook. It is not an easy read. You're going to read it chunk by chunk, and you're going to have a notebook. And he breaks
Wow.
down all of the terms, and he breaks down everything you need to know about how to calculate your freedom number, how to calculate your, like your dream lifestyle, and how to get there, and everything you need to know about the stock market. So from that, I was able to take over all of my own investments. And on my first year taking over my investments, I made $10,000 on my investments. And since then, my investments have more than doubled every single year thanks to compounding interest. And this, again, if I had started this at 18, I could be a freaking millionaire. So I'm a little behind because now I am almost 40 years old. So I'm a little behind. But, so that was rule number two. I wish I would have learned to invest in the stock market at least by 18. And then number three, calculate how to calculate 6 to 12 months of expenses and keep it in a high yield savings account. The reason this is so important, first, the way you calculate it is to calculate your bare bones expenses. What does it cost to pay your rent, pay your food, keep your lights on, your cell phone? Not not your lifestyle right now, not your Netflix, like, because, if you're ever in a dire situation, you're going to cancel all of that anyway. So think of it like if you're in a dire situation, what are the bare bones expenses for 6 to 12 months, and put that in a high yield savings account and let it sit there. The reason I say to have this, and this is not to go buy a house, this is not to go travel, that would be a different account. This is your emergency fund. The reason this is so important is because if you're ever in a situation where you lose your job like me, and I didn't get any unemployment, no help, then you know that you have enough to stay afloat and to act, till you get your next job in 6 to 12 months. 12 months ideal. 6 months at least. So then you have a bridge. So you don't have to be in complete panic mode. And then the other part is, let's say you're in a really crappy job and you're like, oh, I can't quit because I don't know what I'm going to do for money and I live paycheck to paycheck. No, you don't. You have 6 to 12 months of money saved up in the bank. So if, one day you realize this boss is toxic, this environment is toxic, it is not good for my mental health, you're out. You have a safety net. There's something there behind you. I wish
Wow.
those three things, and there's so many more like money principles I've educated myself over the years, but those are the top three I wish I would have learned sooner. Angelica, do you have any
Wow.
questions on that or anything to add or any?
Well, to summarize it, basically become your own daddy.
Yes, yes. Miami rich man.
Yeah. Wow. No, I really do want to talk like I think too that these would be great for our audience to know more details. We'll probably have to do another session on it so you can walk them by step, even for myself, because I'm impressed with how much equity you've come across with the duration that you've been into it. I can't imagine what would have happened if you did do it sooner, or what that would look like for our audience, because you are a mentor and this is part of what your business is. And I think that this is awesome to consult you with. And I feel that it ties a lot into your everyday choices, your mental health. You can't get this far if you have so much chaos in the background, and if your grass isn't fertilized, like what we talked about earlier. It's extremely important that if you control your emotions, you can control your money. You can get to this part in life where you can figure out these things. And maybe because you figured them out at the time that you did, it was because you were able to get through those barriers prior with your emotions and everything else, with the chimpanzee, monkey driving in the seat. Like, you were able to go through those moves, and now you're like, okay, now I can focus on my bread and butter. Because if you're in a toxic relationship, you're hanging out with losers, you're never going to get to this point in life where you can put yourself in a better position for not only you but for your family. And you're only going to attract people. If you have a chaotic life, you're going to attract chaotic people. So I think that's super important to go in hand with your conversation when it comes to assets and finances. That mentally, I think you would agree with me, crucial to make sure you're in a good headspace and you've got everything around you figured out with your emotions.
One thing that you and I were talking about is one thing we've had in common is we refuse to be victims. We have always been like, we are going to take control of our life in one way or another. Whether we knew how, we were going to figure out a way. And even before therapy, I just knew I was never going to be a victim, and that version of me led me to therapy. So that little girl somehow knew the right way to get there, even though she didn't have the resources. So I look at it here, like if you heard some of my stories of where I made some really amazing strides in my life, it came out of moments of tragedy. So you get to choose how this is going to turn out. So if you're in a situation that's your back is up against the wall, you're in a very stressful situation, you're in, in a moment of tragedy, use that energy right now to let it propel you in the direction that you want to go, because you are not going to be more motivated than when your back is up against the wall. So use it. Teach yourself something. Go back to school. Get a hold of your finances. Don't sit there going, "Oh, it's because of them. It's because of, I need a man." No, no, you don't need a man, you don't need them. You can figure it out yourself. And let me tell you, you're going to draw the right people to you when you're coming out of a place of abundance instead of a place of lack. We're like, I need you. I don't know how to do anything without you.
Yeah, you
Nobody
have to
wants that.
channel.
You're gonna drain me. If I were a rich man, I wouldn't want a woman like that. Like, you're gonna drain me. Like, what are you
No.
bringing to the table? My goodness. I don't, like,
Yeah.
that's a whole other
No.
controversial comment,
Yeah,
but
I
you know, like,
know.
how else are you gonna contribute to this relationship if all you're doing is pulling from me? You know?
Yeah, use the energy that you're using to pull to work, you know. And with my husband, whenever we first met, he, like I said before, he tried to start something and I was in the middle of doing my homework. And I told him, I said, no matter what, my homework, my career, it's before you. And he liked that because everybody just wanted to pull him and wanted them to save him. Till this day, I'm like, you're not, no, you know, you're my husband.
Mhm.
We're a team. We're gonna do it together. But he helps me, be in a better position to make better decisions for my career. And it's just a team effort. It's not like one-sided. I do get up in the morning, I cook for him, or I make him his lunch and stuff like that. But you're right. Like I was just like you. I was like, no one's coming to save me. And I have told my husband that before. I was like, I don't care how much you make. I don't care what you drive. I don't care where you live. Like, I am doing this on my own. I am my own daddy before you're my daddy. Like, and so I agree with you. And I'm super happy that we do get to have these great conversations because I think that people need to know that they need to put themselves in a position to be honored as a high valued person. And it's okay. You need to learn how to say no to bad habits, or you'll never be able to say real yes to real success. And if you can't open your mind to new experiences, how do you expect things to open, like doors to open for new opportunities in your life? You got to be uncomfortable being comfortable, or no, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Um, and we talk about it all the time, like with food. I've had friends that have come with me to different restaurants and they're like, oh, I don't like the texture of the food, or oh, that's not my thing. And I feel like we were talking about it earlier to tidy it up. I said, the same people who don't want to try new food are the ones who won't take the risk. And to me, I feel like if you're too scared to try certain foods, you're going to be too scared if you can't expand your palate, then you're going to be too scared to expand your life. And I think that is, those are just certain things that you need to hold people accountable to in your own circle. Because I would never go with you to the Maldives and be like, I'm not eating that because I don't like the texture of it.
Like, what are you
Like,
doing here?
yeah, just I don't want to make it about food, but
Yeah.
you got to get to a point where you can call yourself out on these things, because everything else after that is going to fall into its place, whether it be your finances, your career, your education, your relationships. Those are all four things that you need to rule your life and make it better for you to have a clear path to get through, to not hesitate on making certain executed decisions when they need to be made, whether
Yeah.
it be for the best or the worst.
Yeah, like what you were saying earlier, those who reject something new or something different are rejecting growth, So I think that when I get an opportunity to have new experiences that I wasn't raised with, I approach it with an open-mindedness and curiosity, because the more stuff I get familiar with, the more stuff I get acquainted with, the more I become, I don't want to say valuable, but the more that I can go anywhere and be able to relate to anybody, it adds to my confidence. I can say I've had that caviar, I've had that oyster, I've had that Bordeaux, and I've had a sommelier come to my table. What is a sommelier, you ask? So I can speak the language now because I was able to at first, of course, I was uncomfortable. I remember the first time a sommelier came to the table, I'm like, what are they doing? What is that? But you stay quiet, you watch, and then eventually you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then you learn. And now I am comfortable being able to talk about all these different subjects. And, we were talking fine dining, but it could be anything. It could be the opera, it could be ballet, all of these things helps if you can keep an open mind instead of rejecting it. Just experience it at least once and then give it a fair shot. Maybe you don't like it, and that's fine. I do struggle a little bit with the ballet. That I came in with an open mind, and I'll try it again, but ballet was hard because there's no words. It's just dance. But I
It's not
love,
Broadway.
yeah, I love Broadway and I love the opera. But give it a try. Be okay with being uncomfortable for the sake of growth.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to reject it, and there are many times where me and I'll go have omakase, and you never know what these rooms are going to lead you to. Every person we sit to next to when we are having omakase, they all have a Patek Philippe, a Rolex, and they all have their own business. So there I am, getting new opportunities, getting to know more people, building my circle. Those are the kind of people that you want to rub elbows with in those
Or
rooms.
we're getting close to ending, but really quick for the audience that's not familiar, what is this place you're describing? Like people who don't
Oh,
know.
well, omakase is when the chef brings you different pieces of sushi and nigiris. It just depends whatever the mood they're in, and everybody else gets to enjoy the experience with you. Usually it's like 13 courses, and you
Wow,
know,
so
yeah,
cool. How
I
fun.
know. What about Somali? I know, yes, I don't want to take up too much time,
Yeah.
but I didn't get to ask either, but it made me think of it.
Okay. What is a sommelier? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I should have stopped and explained that too. My bad. Sommelier is somebody who has been educated in wine, and they have like, I mean, they know everything. I want to say either it's certifications or degrees, but it is like top-notch education in wine, and they know everything about the chemicals of the soil. Like they're like chemists. Like it is
Oh,
outrageous.
wow.
So if a restaurant has one, this is a very educated person that has gone through different tiers, and they have level one, level two, and they'll come to your table and they will talk about everything. I mean, the way the weather was, the year that this was made, and how moist, how much humidity. I mean, they nerd out on it. And there's certain ways that they serve the wine so that you can enjoy it to its fullest. It's a production and it's an education, and it's just another one of those things that money and education, will get you. And it's little things like that that make life so rich and beautiful, having all of these
Yeah.
little experiences.
And not rejecting it and being open, like that's the best part of it. So I'm super glad that we got
Yeah.
to explain that to the
Yeah.
audience, because I know a lot of people that watch are probably my family and your family, and I'm super grateful that we could share these experiences with them, so when they do visit us, we go take them to these experiences and they don't feel
Yeah.
inadequate.
Yeah. No, be open-minded. So, on that note, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week. Until next time, keep chasing your dreams and making them a and making them a reality. Bye. Have a good
Bye,
week,
guys.
everyone. Bye.